We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot. Season number 4, episode number 11. First and foremost, man, I hope you guys had a great weekend. We had a very eventful weekend, and I hope you guys was able to kick back and enjoy what we had across the sporting landscape. We had the National Football League get through week number 6 over the weekend. And we've had some interesting things happen across the NFL, man, since Monday Night Football has concluded. And the biggest story across the National Football League is the trade of Davante Adams from the Las Vegas Raiders to the New York Jets. A lot of people speculated on this deal several weeks back when Davante Adams wanted out of Las Vegas. I really can't blame him. I know it's kind of a bummer for Raiders fans out there in Las Vegas, but I just felt that, once they switched quarterbacks from Gardner Minshew to O'Connell, I just knew the writing was on the wall for Davante Adams to get up out of there. And we all kind of knew either he was going to pretty much go down to New Orleans with David Carr, his college buddy from Fresno State, or his riding partner from Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. And first and foremost, I will say this, that this was right on time for the New York Jets as they took an L on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills 23-20. And it was a fun football game. Obviously, we had the Hail Mary pass from Aaron Rodgers to conclude the first half. And, the Jets fell up just short in that game. We definitely had a chance to win the game towards the end, but untimely interception by Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game put the snaps on that. And there's been a lot of talk, obviously, with the New York Jets firing Robert Saleh a week or so ago. The owner, Woody Johnson, he's been very, very aggressive with this football team. Obviously, you got a 40-year-old quarterback. You got to be aggressive because, the hourglass is ticking down for Aaron Rodgers. And this is a team in the AFC East. They have an opportunity still to win that division as the Buffalo Bills took an L last weekend. And so it's a good situation for the Jets. As I mentioned, this is a deal that had been speculated, across the landscape for some time. I thought that Davante Adams, I thought that he needed a change of scenery without question. I think that the Jets, they needed a little sugar rush as far as their offense is concerned. And they got it with Davante Adams, obviously a former Pro Bowler, one of the still best wide receivers in the National Football League. So I thought it was due. And, I was getting ready to kick dirt on the Jets. I was getting ready to go in on the Jets, obviously losing that close game on Monday Night Football. But, this is something that moving forward, the schedule for the New York Jets gets a little softer. But, it's any given Sunday in the National Football League. So I'm not going to say that those are easy wins for them coming up on the lighter part of the schedule. But I thought that this trade for them, the timing of it was perfect. Aaron Rodgers, I seen him on the Pat McAfee show. I mean, he was very, very excited. We had a cameo by Davante Adams on the show as well. And I just think that this offense, they need a number 2 guy. A lot of people thought, with the free agent signing of Mike Williams, that he was going to be that number 2 guy to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has had an impressive last 2 weeks. We saw Breece Hall get a build on the ground in that game. So the offense, they're coming along a little bit. Not as fast as, what Jets fans anticipated when the season began. But, definitely when you bring in a guy like Davante Adams, you're going to pump some energy into the offense. I think the defense for this football team is playing well. I don't think that they're the same defense that, we kind of anticipated as, we saw last couple seasons from the Jets. But they've been trying to hold down the fort so far this season. The offense has been really the weak part of their football club. And I just think that they definitely improved with this addition to Davante Adams. And so we'll see what they do across New York. As I mentioned, this was something that, was heavily speculated across the whole sporting landscape. Definitely wasn't a surprise for me at all. I just knew it was a 50-50 chance between him and the Saints. And when I seen Derek Carr go out with the oblique injury, that power shifted to the New York Jets. So I commend Woody Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets, for making a very, very aggressive move. And I think that it may pay off, dividends for the New York Jets moving forward. But, we definitely will see how that thing unfolds, moving down in the season. And we had another trade in the National Football League, as Amani Cooper was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills. I thought that this trade, to me, was more needed for the Buffalo Bills than even the trade with Devontae Adams. I think that Amani Cooper, last season had a career high over 1,200 yards last season for the Cleveland Browns. That was pretty much with Joe Flacco in tow. In Cleveland, it looks like, man, Cleveland is just about hitting the reset button. I mean, this offense has been stagnant. You had the situation with Deshaun Watson, who is just not the same guy. He is just not the same guy. Cleveland owes him a huge bag of money. They got to figure out that whole situation. I was surprised that they let Joe Flacco get out of the building and go to Indianapolis, to be quite honest with you. And I just think that Amani Cooper, he's getting older, 30 years old, so he still has some tread on the tires. But I think that for him, this is the best move for him personally. I think that the Buffalo Bills, another team that I was going to go in on. Obviously, I've mentioned, definitely if you guys follow the podcast, I appreciate you guys listening. And it was a situation that, I was kind of low on the Bills. I knew when you lose a guy like Gabe Davis, you lose a guy, and Stephon Diggs going down to Houston. It was a situation where you got the young guys and Kevin Coleman and Shakir, who is presently injured right now for the Buffalo Bills. He a little nicked up. I thought the timing was perfect for them. At the end of the day in the NFL with the skill position player, especially when you have a guy like Josh Allen, you got to surround him with some kind of talent, man. You just can't allow him to just put on the cape week after week after week and expect, the Buffalo Bills to be a real contender in the AFC. I think this pumped them up a little bit. I think the AFC East is finally exciting. I thought that it was one of the most overrated divisions in the NFL, and they trying to get their swag back for these moves. So I think that especially from, Cooper's situation, it's a better situation than the whole Cleveland ordeal. I think that Kevin Stefanski and the brass up in Cleveland, to me, this is kind of them waving the white flag. Now, obviously, we had Chubb coming back. We'll see what he does. It looks like he's going to probably be back within the next week or two. And so this is a team that has not been able to also run the football as well as just the ineptness on the offensive end. I think they do have some pieces on the defensive end, but this offense is so stuck in the mud, man, that it's, spilling over to the defensive side of the football for them. And so, I don't know, man. With the Browns, this is a passionate fan base, the dog pound up in Cleveland. And so, it's definitely a situation for them. They lose outstanding talent in Amani Cooper, and it looks like they're pretty much waving a white flag moving forward. We also, too, had another trade in the NFL, man. It was a real hot trade cycle. We had Cam Akers getting traded to the Houston Texans. From the Houston Texans to the Minnesota Vikings. I just think for them, the Vikings have had an outstanding season so far. They had a bye this week. They're presently 4-1 on the season. Leading that NFC North, which I personally feel that the NFC North is the most powerful division in the National Football League through the first month and a half of the season. I just think that they are just kind of, squaring up that running back situation. We got Aaron Jones presently a little nicked up. So Cam Akers, he's been a guy who's been around the block. He's a guy that may be able to add some pop, to the offense. Sam Darnold was living his best life so far. I think that this team, the Minnesota Vikings, the interesting part about the NFC North is that we really haven't had any divisional games in that division. So coming up, we're going to really see, who's the heavyweight in that division with the divisional games coming up. And so I think this is a positive move for the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, just add another running back into the running back room, and we'll see if it's fruitful for the Minnesota Vikings moving forward for the rest of the season. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And this is my favorite time of the year. We have the NBA. They're in preseason mode right now. We're pretty much about a week or so out from the NBA season. I do have my NBA preview coming up. We're definitely going to kick that off real soon before the NBA season. So I appreciate you guys check that out. It's coming right down the slate. And speaking of the NBA, like I said, it's my favorite time of the year because it's Hall of Fame time. It's Hall of Fame time, and man, I love just giving appreciation back, to the contributors of the NBA. A lot of these gentlemen and young lady has been a steward of the sport, and so we just gonna break it down, man. We got half man, half amazing Vince Carter. Outstanding talent, one of the best athletes to ever play in the NBA. Class of 1998, coming out of University of North Carolina. We all know about the dunks with Vince. Had an amazing 22-year career. And, he was as advertised coming into the league. I'm a huge University of North Carolina fan, especially during that run in the 1990s. And him and Antoine Jamison and Ed Cota, putting it down. They fell up short though in the Final Four, man, in 1998. Still can't believe they lost to the University of Utah, man. That was a crazy situation. I was in college at the same time, so I definitely was locked and loaded. Thought that the North Carolina Tar Heels was going to win the national championship that year, but they fell up a little short. But, Vince, first and foremost, man, Vince is a good dude. Just a genuinely good dude. As I mentioned, a 22-year career, started off in Toronto, pretty much put the franchise on his back while he was up in Toronto. Obviously, we all remember the 2000 Slam Dunk Contest. I know if you guys, my youngins who listening in, know you guys have definitely seen that on YouTube. And it was an outstanding situation out there in Oakland. Never forget Kenny Smith yelling, "It's over," because it definitely was over. Vince throwing his arm in the rim and just doing inverted 360 windmills. And he definitely carried the torch for the Slam Dunk Contest. Wish we can get back to those golden days of the Slam Dunk Contest when Vince Carter was a participant. But it's definitely well deserved. I definitely think Vince Carter's a Hall of Famer. Just kind of reinvented itself towards the latter part of his career. Just being just a guy who was able to come in and give you that pop, man. Being able to score, even outside the athletic plays. Being able to shoot the basketball and just being a good locker room guy. So definitely, man, I congratulate Vince Carter and his family, man. It's an outstanding accomplishment for him. And he's in the right place, man, with the rest of the Hall of Famers. Another guy from the 90s. From the 90s that, this guy was an All-American coming out of Denver, Colorado. Went to the University of Colorado for the Buffs. And I'm talking about Mr. Big Shot, Chauncey Billups. This is a guy, and a lot of people, depending on, kind of your age demographic, we all remember Chauncey Billups from the Detroit Pistons, winning NBA Finals MVP, World Championship for the Detroit Pistons with Ben Wallace and, Rasheed Wallace and, man, Rip Hamilton. Just an outstanding unit with Larry Brown, man. They was tough as nails. Can't forget about Tayshaun Prince putting the lock-up defense. He's the only guy that I seen really in a playoff situation kind of put the clamps on Kobe Bryant. And so, they was a huge franchise as far as bringing Detroit back into the championship, fold. And Chauncey Billups, man, Mr. Big Shot, his career started off a little sluggish, playing for the Denver Nuggets, playing for the Boston Celtics. He's a guy that was well-traveled. And a lot of people thought that he was a first-round pick, that Chauncey was going to be a bust. And through his first 5 years of his career, it looked like it was trending that way. And to me, really with basketball, a lot of times, especially at the point guard position, man, it's just about the right coaching. And once he got under the tutelage of Larry Brown, his career pretty much took off. And, congratulations to Mr. Big Shot, man. I think it was well deserved. Obviously, right now, he's presently the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. So we'll see what the Blazers do moving forward. They got a young basketball club. And Chauncey Billups, man, congratulations to you and your family, man, making the Hall of Fame. We also got one of my OGs, man. One of my OGs going into the Hall of Fame. This is a gentleman, being a young lad, man, watching this guy play, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. Multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year. This is a guy that, is known for the Sox, man. Known for the Sox, and I'm talking about Michael Cooper, part of the legendary Los Angeles Lakers. A lot of people don't know, Coop was there before Magic came to town. And once Magic got there, man, they went on a legendary run. One of the most dominant runs in NBA history, winning 5 world championships in the 1980s. And as I mentioned, Coop, man, known for the Sox. Just a trendsetter out there on the court. Tremendous teammate, outstanding defensive player. I'll never forget, especially in the 1987 NBA Finals, being a young lad, man, watching them talk trash to the great Larry Bird as they took down the Boston Celtics. And Coop, like I said, he played with a great cast with Magic Johnson and James Worthy, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and under the tutelage of Pat Riley, man, who's in the Hall of Fame as well. So Cooper's where he belongs, man. He's an outstanding guy, former WNBA coach, a great steward of the game of basketball. And so very, very happy for Coop, man. Congratulations to him as well as his family also. And we have a young lady that got into the Hall of Fame. And I watched this young lady play at LSU. Thought she was one of the best collegiate players in the country at the time. Just a great girl, man, and just a steward of the game of basketball on the women's side. And I'm talking about Simone Augustus. Just a real smooth game, man. I really loved her game. She was very, very smooth. She was a player that didn't get too high, didn't get too low on the basketball court. And definitely congratulations to her. The WNBA right now is on a wave as we're presently in the WNBA finals. And I think it was definitely rightful, deserving by Simone Augustus. And so congratulations to her and her family as well. Tremendous honor. And then we have a gentleman that made the Hall of Fame, former player. This guy should have been a gold medalist, back in the Olympics back in 1972. Take you guys back in the time machine. That was with the USA team losing very controversially to the Russia at the time, USSR, in 1972. Won a silver medal, which, by the way, he's never accepted his silver medal as well as his teammates have not as well. Played for the Philadelphia 76ers with one of the greatest players ever in Dr. J. And fell short of winning an NBA championship, but I came to know this guy, man, being a young kid and being a very, very passionate Bulls fan. Just watching every single Bulls game on WGN and just the telecast locally there in Chicago. And I'm talking about Mr. Doug Collins. This is a guy that to me is one of the best basketball people around. I obviously had a good broadcasting career as well in the NBA, but Doug was my guy. And Doug, he was right before the greatness of the Bulls took off. But I think that, Doug Collins laid the groundwork for the Chicago Bulls. Ended up, even though he wasn't the head coach for the championship teams, Jerry Reinsdorf did the right thing in giving this man a ring. I think it was well deserving. And, we all know about Phil Jackson and, The Last Dance and all of that. But Doug Collins was the Kickstarter for all of that. And like I said, I was very, very happy for Doug. I thought it was well overdue. Once again, man, I just think he's just a great guy. Just a great steward of the game of basketball. His son, Chris Collins, former coach, went to Duke. So I just think that, it was well deserved for Doug Collins, and congratulations to him as well as the Collins family. Thought it was well deserved, representing Illinois State University as well. I'm a Midwest and Illinois guy. So that definitely was a big deal. So as I mentioned, man, it's my favorite time of the year, man, especially when we pay homage to the OGs in the basketball spectrum and the NBA International Hall of Fame, man. So congratulations to everyone who made it. And so it's just a big thing. And so coming up, I'm going to breeze through the National Football League as we went through week number 6, as well as I got the whole situation with Jerry Jones snapping on the radio host, frustrations down in Dallas without doubt. And also, too, I got my NFL Big 5 power rankings coming up. So once again, man, if it's your first time listening, I appreciate the love and the feedback. Appreciate my OGs for listening once again. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube at We On Fire Sports. Definitely got that jumped off. Obviously, Twitter as well. We got that jumped off. So once again, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate you. Yeah. And We On Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Welcome back. And the NFL, we just concluded week number 6 across the National Football League. And before I get into week number 6, there was an interesting game on Sunday, man, between the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, as the Lions came into Dallas and straight DDT'd the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that thing got ugly early. Man, it was ugly early as the Detroit Lions was able to run the football up and down the field. Jared Goff had a pretty good game. The defense was stout, holding Dallas in the check as they won 47-9. We obviously had the injury to Hutchinson, man, on the defensive end. Looks like he got a broke leg. Pretty much the season is over with. That was a huge loss for the Detroit Lions, and hopes are very, very high for the Detroit Lions, man. I know the city of Detroit is proud of the Lions so far over the year and a half with Dan Campbell and company up in Detroit. So definitely well wishes to Chad Hutchinson, man. Hopefully he's able to get back, Hutchinson. And so definitely for them, it was a big-time victory, but it was kind of a downer with Hutch going out for the season with the broke leg. And then we had Mr. Jerry Jones. Mr. Jerry Jones himself, the architect of the Dallas Cowboys, owner of the Dallas Cowboys now for 35 years. And Jerry just straight up snapped. He just straight up snapped. Know you guys have probably maybe heard the interview that he had with WFAN, as Jerry Jones is actually a part owner of the radio station down there in Dallas. And Jerry Jones wasn't a happy camper. Definitely right now with the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, the defense is straight huff. We had Parsons, obviously, he's been out for the last couple of weeks. But I don't think it would have mattered on Sunday as the Dallas Cowboys straight got DDT. But Jerry was hot. And I thought that the questions that the radio host asked was very, very fair. They try to, stick up for their football club down there in Dallas. Obviously, it's a passionate fan base down there in Dallas. And I thought that the questions was fair. I think at the end of the day, when you're a spokesperson for your organization, being, the owner/general manager, I think the questions, with your team not playing well and not performing well is fair. And so I thought that, for him just to snap, obviously it was on Jerry Jones' birthday that this game occurred on. It wasn't a good birthday gift for him. This is a guy that's a multi-billionaire owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry didn't have a good moment. And I just think that it's a lot of frustration down in Dallas. But at the end of the day, the arrow is pointed upstairs, man. When you're the owner and the general manager of this team, we all knew coming into the season, they didn't have no running game at all. And there's no slight on Rico Dowdle. I think he's trying his best for the Dallas Cowboys, but they just don't have that guy. And when you put all of it on Dak Prescott and obviously CeeDee Lamb, at the end of the day, you're a one-dimensional football team, and definitely when you can't stop the run, you're going to lose time of possession in these football games, and it's reared his ugly head on Sunday. So, Jerry, man, I just think you just need a shot of whiskey, man, or a cold glass of wine, man, just to relax. This team now is 500, and that's, what Bill Parcells said back in the day, man, former coach of the New York Giants and, the Jets and, the Cowboys also. You are what your record say you are, man. So, for Dallas, they got to pick up the pieces, man. It don't look good moving forward. I don't think this team is a playoff team. And you've seen the frustrations from Jerry Jones, man. So it definitely was ugly, across the board down in Dallas this weekend, man. But the NFL, man, is week to week. And so see if they'll be able to pick up the pieces. As we look across week number 6, we kicked it off with Thursday Night Football with the San Francisco 49ers knocking off the Seattle Seahawks. The Niners as well, they're 3-3. Now, for the 49ers, obviously C-Mac is out. He's still out. Not sure when he's going to return. Looks like it's going to be in a couple of weeks. I think the Niners needed this football game. Now, obviously, it was a divisional matchup. For Seattle, man, for every good game you got from Geno Smith, you got a not-so-good game. So they took a L, man. But I think Seattle, they started off the season pretty hot, man. The air been let out the tires a little bit over the last couple of weeks for them. So they definitely got to pick up the pieces. For the Niners, man, it was huge for them picking up a divisional win. We'll definitely see what they do moving forward. Jordan Mason got a little nicked up and running back for the San Francisco 49ers. We'll see what that do, man. Looks like he may be good. He was spotted in practice, man. So look like he may be trending towards playing this week. But we'll see what it do moving forward for the San Francisco 49ers. And then we had the London series, man. We might as well call the Jaguars, the London Jaguars, they're still over there in London. But last week they took an L to my Chicago Bears, 35-16. Outstanding game by Caleb Williams. Definitely, to me, I think it was his best game so far in the National Football League. Number 1 pick for the Chicago Bears. And with the Bears, it was just about balanced offense. They was able to run the ball with Swift. Got the deep plays that they needed. From their perspective in the passing game, I think the defense is one of the top 5 units across the National Football League so far during the first month of the season. The Bears, man, improved to 4-2, and they're in a tough division in the NFC North, man. They presently 4-2 and in last place in the division. I think that this division To me, it's the best in football so far through the first month and a half of the season. But definitely shout out to the Bears, man. They came out focused, and they got the thing kind of rolling, man, early in the second quarter, and it just was a steamroll throughout. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, man, Trevor Lawrence just another dub performance for him. I just think that for the Jacksonville Jaguars, man, they looking like they back in the NFL draft again. This is not a playoff team. The defense is one of the worst units in the National Football League, and they're still in London, man. So we'll see. We'll see if Doug Peterson get on the plane to come back to the States, being still the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he might be the second coach with his head on the guillotine this season. But we'll see what it do for Jacksonville moving forward. My Bears, they got a bye week next week, so they can enjoy this victory, man, and see what it do for the rest of the season. And another game to me that was, interesting, that kind of, caught my eye a little bit. Obviously we talked about the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, but there was another game that was interesting to me, and that was between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders. Obviously you got Lamar Jackson, who is just a Houdini out there, man. This guy's just magical every time that I see him just on the field, man. I think that the Baltimore Ravens started off slow so far this season, but they was able to pull out a victory 30-23. We had Jaden Daniels, who has been a talk of the National Football League, and I thought he played an okay game. But I mentioned this going into this game and just kind of moving forward for Washington. I think they're going to play, a tougher schedule. I think teams are going to kind of scheme up and scout what Jaden Daniels has to do. I think that this team, obviously being 4-2, is not all bad in Washington, obviously, even though they took an L this week. I think that, the light is definitely shining bright on Jaden Daniels. But I think that Baltimore right now, man, they're kind of clicking right now. And they're definitely a team that, is a problem. Derrick Henry running the football as Derrick Henry does. I think that this defense, to me, is the biggest room for improvement on this football team. But they got the pieces. And I think that we'll see that moving forward through the rest of the season for the Baltimore Ravens. But it was a big-time win for them, man. And looks like, as I mentioned, looks like they're trending in the right direction. So we'll see, man. That NFC North is definitely going to be a grinder for the rest of the season across the NFC North. But, it is what it is, man. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that division, man, lock horns with those divisional games coming up. We also, too, had another team, man, that I felt that, this team is just chugging along and quietly right now. They're 5-1 on the season, and I'm talking about the Houston Texans. They was able to put up 41 points on the New England Patriots. Obviously, they was favored in this game as the Patriots fell to 1-5 on the season. C.J. Stroud doing what C.J. Stroud do. He had 3 touchdown passes in this football game. He's definitely, trending upward. I think he started off kind of slow so far this season, in the early, first couple of games. But he's trending upward, man. And, Joe Mixon, he's going to be back in the fold, being Joe Mixon. He was kind of nicked up with an ankle injury. He's been lingering the last couple of weeks. But I think that, the Texans are trending forward. I think this defense is definitely a little underrated, even though they gave up 21 points to the Patriots. They were starting, Drake May, who had a good game in his NFL debut, being a starting quarterback with 3 touchdowns in this game. But pretty much for the New England Patriots, man, looks like they rebuilding, man, just trying to kind of see what talent they have across the board, man, moving forward, say for them. And another game that, was interesting for me, and that was the Sunday night football game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants. The Bengals started off this season very, very slow, as they always do. But can't blame the offense, man, for the Bengals. I thought that so far this season, the defense has been straight garbage. And I think this was their best defensive outing so far this season, as they won this game 17-7. Joe Burrow, man, looking like Lamar Jackson out there, man, with the 50-yard touchdown, man, early in the game. But this was a defensive matchup. And, the Giants, they have one of the, better defensive units in the NFL so far through the first week of the season. But, I'm sorry, for the first month of the season. But, I think that for me, it's all about Daniel Jones, man. And I just think that at the end of the day, this guy is simply not the guy. And I just think that when you play better teams, especially with teams who have high-powered offenses, at the end of the day, you got to be able to score points, man. So for them, they fall to 2-4 on the season. The Bengals, they improved to 2-4 on the season. They're in that AFC North. And I think that this team, is trending upward a little bit. So we'll see what they do moving forward. And obviously, we got into a little bit earlier, the Buffalo Bills beating the New York Jets 23-20. as the Bills improved to 4-2 on the season. Obviously they made that big time move, man, and bringing in Amari Cooper. I think that's going to improve their offense. So I think the Bills are definitely trending up. They got off the snide, losing 2 games in a row. Jets fall to 2-4, but they made a deal as well, bringing in Devontae Adams. So I think that the AFC East is still to be determined a little bit. We'll see how that whole situation works itself out. And so that was my quick look across the National Football League in week number 6. As we're trending now into the fall, we're starting to see a little bit of what we call separation between the teams so far. So I'm definitely excited as what we see moving forward across the NFL. And with that being said, I haven't hit you guys with my NFL Big 5 power rankings. I wanted to kind of let the season marinate just a little bit before I dump off another Big 5 to you guys. And we're going to get right into it. I got coming in at number 5. This is a team that we didn't see this week. They had a bye this week, but they've been playing some outstanding football. They're leading the NFC North presently, a team that a lot of people had question marks about, and me included in that. And that's the Minnesota Vikings. Right now they're 4-1. As I mentioned, they're leading the NFC North with only 1 defeat so far on the season. I just think that Sam Darnold, he's living his best life right now. He's on a redemption tour. He's been playing some good football so far this season. You got Justin Jefferson doing his Justin Jefferson thing. They just made a trade with the Houston Texans to bring on Cam Akers. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing from Minnesota, but it's definitely going to be a litmus test as they get into more division play in the NFC North. But we'll see what the Vikings do moving forward. But, man, they've had an outstanding first 6 weeks of the season for them. So I know the Minnesota Vikings fans are definitely excited of what they've seen so far from them. And coming in at number 4, this team also is 4-1 on the season. This is a team that I predicted early on to get to the AFC Championship game this year, and I'm talking about the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud, to me, he started off a little slow, but he's playing better football now, not turning the football over. This defense, I think, is a little bit underrated. D'Amico Ryans is one of the good young head coaches across the National Football League, and this team is simply winning the games that they're supposed to win, and that's what it's all about in the NFL. You got to win the games that you're supposed to win. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Houston Texans. The arrow is definitely trending up. They have a possibility to meet them and the Minnesota Vikings to move up in my power rankings as we get a little deeper into the season. We'll definitely see what that do. And coming in at number 3. At number 3, this is a team that started off slow, but they had a hard schedule, man, as they kicked off the season in Kansas City. And just didn't know about this team with the slow start. They was 0-2, but they done ran off 4 in a row, and I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens. And yeah, Lamar Jackson, he's been outstanding, man. Just outstanding. This guy's just must-see TV. Every time I watch this guy play, man, he does something amazing. You got Derrick Henry that, to me, might be the front runner for the MVP this season. He's been playing some outstanding football. I think that this defensive unit for the Baltimore Ravens, that they're definitely now trending up. As I mentioned earlier, man, they've had a very difficult schedule so far during the early part of the season. I think that the defense now, they're kind of settling in a little bit. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Baltimore Ravens as a whole. I think that, to me, you got Zay Flowers, having a good season so far. We got Mark Andrews off the milk carton for them, Isaiah Likely. So I'm liking what I'm seeing in Baltimore, man. I got them coming in at number 3. My number 2 team, they definitely had the most impressive victory last week in destroying the Dallas Cowboys down in Dallas. And yeah, man, I'm talking about what up, though? The Detroit Lions, man, coming in at 4-1 so far this season. And, they're in the virtual tie, obviously, with the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North. And I think that the Lions, man, they probably have the best rushing attack in the National Football League between both of their backs. Dan Campbell, man, this guy eats nails for breakfast. He definitely has the 10 of his football club. Obviously, we got Hudson out with the injury. I think that they're going to have to make some adjustments off of that. I think that the defense, they got to make some moves. They got to make some moves, and I'm not sure if it's a move that's outside their building. I'm not sure if it's a move strategically in schemes, but definitely Hutchinson is going to be a big loss for them. They got some division games coming up in the next couple of weeks, so we definitely going to see what Detroit does, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from Detroit so far, man, and they're definitely a team that's trending upward, man. And I got the Detroit Lions coming in at number 2. At number 1, man, we got what I call an oldie but goodie. This is a team we didn't get a chance to see them this week. They was on a nice young bye. And I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm not sure how long they're going to hold this number 1 spot. Now, obviously, they're undefeated, but this team has had some treacherous injuries across the board. Patrick Mahomes, he hadn't had the best season statistically so far through the first month and a half of the season. But this team has the heart of a champion, man. They simply find ways to win. I think the power dynamic for the Chiefs are on the defensive end of the football, with Spagnuolo being the defensive coordinator, Chris Jones over there. And they just make plays, man, and they just find a way to win. But I don't know, man, they're a team that, they may lose their spot, man. I got to see, man, especially when you have the injury to those key players, Rashid Rice and Pacheco. I just think that at the end of the day, you got to have horses, man. But I think this team has been able to adjust very, very well through the first month and a half of the season. I wouldn't say they're trending upward. They're pretty much maintaining. And like I said, they could potentially lose their spot in my next rankings, but we'll see what it do, man. And so that's my NFL Big 5, man, through the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. Things are ratcheting it up. Some teams across the board got these divisional matchups coming up. Definitely we're going to see some good matchups across the divisions in the NFL, the National Football League. And before I get out of here, man, I want to shout out, man, my guys out here doing great work out here, man. Doing some great work. Talk about my guys, Mako and E, Mr. Taylor Street. We got the Weekly Dog Podcast jumping off. Weekly Dog Sports Betting Podcast. They get more into the betting end of the spectrum. Also, too, they got great analysis across the NFL. Also, too, with a nice little focus on my Chicago Bears. Also, too, see Red with the Chicago Bulls. You're definitely going to get into that coming up. But I definitely want to shout out my guys, man. You can definitely check them out on YouTube as well. 5box 2300 in the building. And that's it, man. I appreciate you guys with all the love and the feedback, man. I appreciate your ear. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week, as we'll be back with the weekend look as we get into the sporting landscape. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot.